Welcome to the Shyamcast. This is Brett.
This
Ooh,
is Shyam.
sorry. Let me start over. My voice, I lost my voice there. Welcome to the Shyamcast. This is Brett.
This is Shyam.
Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Yes.
How are you today, Shyam?
Auspicious day.
Ah, yeah. What is today?
It's Gita Jayanti today.
Yeah. So, yeah, what does that mean? Gita
So
Jayanti.
it's today's the day Lord Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna.
Mm.
And it's also Ekadashi, which is the
Oh,
day for making maximum spiritual progress, the day which is very dear to Krishna. So
wow. It is quite an auspicious day, isn't it? That
yeah.
doesn't happen very often. I
Once a,
yeah. Or well, I guess the combination of the two anyway, right? Of
yeah,
it being.
once a year.
Hmm. Oh, is it always on an Akadashi?
Yeah,
Oh,
yes.
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I was thinking since Akadashi is like every 2 weeks, basically, I was thinking it would be
Yeah.
more infrequent, but
Yeah.
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 No, but anyway, yeah, it's a really fun it's a really fun occasion. Everybody gets
Yeah.
together and reads the whole Bhagavad Gita
Yeah.
straight through.
Uh,
Um, it takes what, 2 to 2.5 hours maybe.
yes. Yes.
And yeah, kind of amazing that that's all it takes. You think of like
Uh,
different scriptures or holy books and how long it would take to just
uh,
read the whole thing all the way through. Um, it's kind of amazing that, Bhagavad Gita, it's such a condensed piece of writing, piece of wisdom. It's sort of it's like all essence or all nectar, I guess,
mm.
as they say.
Actually, when we read only Sanskrit, it takes 1 hour 45 minutes.
Mm.
And Lord Krishna spoke in 45 minutes.
Mm.
Entire Bhagavad Gita. It takes decades to understand, but just 45 minutes short conversation.
Mm. Pretty amazing.
Uh,
Yeah.
all
I was
Sanskrit. Amazing.
I was actually reflecting recently, it's taken us several months, to get where we are.
Uh,
This Bhagavad Gita study we're about to start chapter 5, and for
mm,
Arjuna though it's been about 10 minutes, something
mm,
like that.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
been listening to
Yeah.
Krishna, so yeah, I think it is always important, at least, for myself to recognize, just remember as we go through a study, it's like it takes it takes so much time to really start to let this material soak in, and it
Mm,
can kind of keep soaking in more and more, the more that you study it and read it. But for Arjuna, this is just he's getting it verse after verse, he's just
mm,
all the way through. It's almost like a brief conversation.
mm.
And so yeah, just it's kind of it's amazing to think about, especially being able to grasp everything Krishna says at like the first glance.
It's, I mean, how fast we understand is based on consciousness.
Mm,
So, for example, if somebody who is, say, um, a software language and somebody who is very expert in software language, and he reads some complex, say, PhD thesis on that, and he'll just like get it. Like in few minutes, he can get it because he is so like advanced in that knowledge himself. But for people like us to read the thesis takes the whole background and everything we have to understand and we have to nail down to every single step. So likewise, when someone is completely pure, then it's just like a conversation. But because we are perceiving it from our stage, especially in this age of Kali and whatnot,
mm,
all, and we're trying to fathom what Lord Krishna spoke on a stage of transcendental from our stage, then we have to nail down every single thing. Oh yeah, now I see what Krishna is saying. That's why it takes
mm,
so much
mm,
time.
mm. So it's sort of our perspective, or our maybe just like our mind, that is sort of getting in the way of understanding, right, as we read.
Yeah, because we are covered by these three modes, na?
Mm,
So, and then we are seeing the transcendental knowledge from the perspective of our kind of experience and conditioning. So this is like, that is like, so that's why it's, and then for something to understand, you're like, ah, and then we are thinking. And after 10 years, when our consciousness a little bit opens up, then we feel like, ah, now it makes sense what Krishna is speaking. So it's
mhm,
just a journey. Understanding Gita is journey for us.
mm. Yeah, I feel like for myself, I really can't even give myself the credit of like just saying, "Oh, I just don't understand. I really want to understand, but I don't understand." I feel
Mm.
like even I would consider even that to be like a pretty like pure point of view or like, a
Ah,
good point of view.
ah,
I know like I guess what I'm saying is, sometimes the issue that I have is like not it's sort of like almost coming up against some of the things that I read in Bhagavad Gita or in other spiritual texts for
mm,
that matter, right? It's sort of
mm,
like a not wanting to accept certain
mm,
things. It's sort of
mm,
like okay, it's almost like I like that, but I don't like that. And
mm,
that's a more difficult thing to,
mm,
it's I guess before even, coming to understand, it's like, what this is really saying, you
mm,
have to at least be open to things. You have to come to, learn the
mm,
validity, the reality of certain things that you read. And some things are difficult to just accept off the bat. I know like
mm,
I know I've talked about a little bit of sometimes I have like that like I take Arjuna's side or I just feel like I understand that viewpoint sometimes more. And so yeah, sometimes I feel in my own mind, I feel that sort of reaction of like it's very difficult to really
mm,
want to accept that.
mm,
Um,
mm,
or it's because that's a big hurdle, for probably I guess some
mm,
people as well.
mm.
As we
Yeah.
read this, it's sort of like, well, is that true? Or gosh, that would just it feels like it would be really difficult to follow that, or something like that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, what would you, I guess, do you have any thoughts on that, Roji?
Well, I agree with you. I think there is a lot of depth in every word Krishna speaks.
Mm,
And sometimes those things we realize at some point of time what Krishna meant by that. And when Krishna says, don't do this, and I feel like, what's wrong in doing that? Maybe after a few years, I realize, oh, that is the reaction of that. Probably that's why Krishna is saying that. So those are like few eureka moments. We're like, oh, now I get it. So that's why it is said that we hear Bhagavad Gita in the mood of Arjuna. The mood of Arjuna is like acceptance. Yes, Krishna. All right,
mm,
Krishna. But we may not understand, but slowly we get realization. Slowly, things will reveal to us from within our heart. One Srila Prabhupada was saying, we must write our realizations. So these realizations are very rare and they come gradually over a period of time with the practice of devotional service. We saw that last week, that verse. Gradually, with the practice of devotional service, it's
mm,
revealed to us from within our heart. And when something reveals, then Prabhupada says we should write. So we got a third member today in the
very nice. Yeah. Yeah.
camp.
Sorry for the interruption there, Roji, but it's a very nice thought. Um, yeah, the cat has decided to join us today.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
His name is Nimbus.
Nimbus. Yeah, now I
Yeah,
remember.
the
Hey,
cloud.
Nimbus, how are you?
Yeah. He's a cat. He kind of just does what he likes, He'll hopefully he'll just curl up and lay down somewhere because that's sort of what he likes to do the most.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But just to your point, Proji, I mean, yeah, I guess when one of those things come, it's it can be very useful. Like,
Mm,
it's to put it down somewhere. I guess if you sort of realize something, it's sort of easy to maybe just go, oh, great, and then move on. Or maybe assume, oh, I'll just always have that in mind. I'll always remember that.
mm,
But I do feel like on a spiritual path, it's like you can just kind of keep making a lot of the same mistakes or, kind
mm,
of like having a lot of the same errors if
mm,
you don't sort of remember some of the lessons that
mm.
you've learned already. So
That's one thing, like we may understand it, some aspect, we may not be able to realize it.
Mm,
Till we realize, we won't be able to practice it. We can practice only what we have realized. We cannot act on we cannot make our life act on an intellectual level for long. We will be naturally be doing things which we are inclined to, like intuition based, but not like intellectual based. But slowly with that little practice, whatever we do, the more we realize, more you're like, oh, I know what's gonna happen with this. So you see, then you're like, no. But till you don't see, they're like, what's wrong in that?
mm.
It's very pure.
Yeah, very slow process, gradual process, right?
Yeah. But as long as we are on it, it's all good.
Mm,
And it just takes its own time to kind of soak in all.
mm. Yeah, very nice, Roji.
Yeah.
Would you want to get into this
Yeah.
fifth chapter then?
Yes.
Okay. So, chapter five is uh like chapter three, it's also titled Karma Yoga.
Mhm.
There's an additional part of this title, and Srila Prabhupada calls it Karma Yoga Action in Krishna Consciousness.
Mhm.
So back in chapter three, just a, I guess, small recap. We talked about karma yoga. We talked about sacrifice. Arjuna he sort of started that chapter out by asking about, what is intelligence better? Um, or what did he say specifically? Just looking at it. Is
Mhm.
intelligence better or like maybe renunciation?
Mhm.
And oh, is intelligence better than fruitive work, than
Mhm.
karma?
Mhm.
So he sort of, Krishna goes through a lot of the stuff about the soul and everything in chapter two and about, holding back from the senses and remaining equipoise. And so in chapter three, Arjuna has this question about, is it better to be intelligent or is it better to act like act in the world, I guess. He calls it fruitive activity. And so
Mhm.
Krishna begins to explain, how um I guess, sort of what right action is, I suppose.
Mhm.
Right? Acting in Krishna consciousness or not being attached to the fruits, doing things as a sacrifice. And
Mhm.
I guess I, bring that up now, especially, because once Krishna talks about that, and then chapter four, he talks a little bit about transcendental knowledge. He gets into speaking about karma yoga again, right?
Mhm.
And it begins in a similar way. Arjuna asks a question. He's sort of like, I'm not clear on, is it sort of this or that, right?
Mhm.
And so I think maybe we'll read. I think the cat's. He's gonna jump. Come
Thinking.
on, buddy.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can do it. Okay. So he I think we'll read the first two verses to
Mhm.
get sort of Arjuna's question and then, Krishna's initial response, to that question.
Okay.
So verse 1,
Mhm.
Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?"
Mhm.
So whereas in chapter 3, he was trying to discern between intelligence and work, or karma or fruitive work, now he's saying, okay, you told me not to renounce work, right?
Mhm.
No reaction, don't be attached to the reaction of
Mhm.
what you do, don't be attached to those fruits. But then you're also sort of telling me now, to work in devotion, right? Do everything as a sacrifice with devotion, right, towards Krishna. So which of those two is most beneficial?
Mhm.
And then verse 2,
Mhm.
personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation.
Mhm.
But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work.
Mhm.
So here we have a straightforward answer, right?
Mhm.
Um, he does say, I guess, first of all, both of them are good. It's
Mhm.
good to renounce work,
Mm,
Maybe we can talk a little about that. Maybe I don't know if he means specifically the renouncing the fruit of work or just renouncing work completely, like not doing
mm,
any work.
mm,
But whatever that is, renunciation of work, it's it's good, and work in devotion is good as well. But then he says definitively, right, working in devotion is the better of the two.
mm.
Um, can you talk? I have this question to begin, Prabhuji. The renunciation of work. How can we think of that? Is that like not working, or is that not being attached to the fruits of what our actions are?
That's the path of Gyan Yoga, where sixth chapter Bhagavad Gita, this will spun off to the sixth chapter,
Hmm.
renunciation. And
Hmm.
there Krishna speaks, go to the forest, sit on a seat, not too high, not too low, do pranayam, like breathing exercise, do asanas, and then withdraw the mind from the senses, withdraw the senses from the sense object, and then start meditating on me. So that is a path of renunciation, where you leave the work and then you work to attain the supreme. Another is like you're only working towards the path of Ashtanga Yoga. More details will come in the next chapter.
Hmm.
Or you do what you are doing and you do it for the pleasure of Krishna. That's like work and devotion. Don't leave the work, add devotion to your work. And one is leave everything and take a completely separate path of devotion, which is in the means of yogic practices, like people who go to Himalayas and Rishi,
Hmm.
Rishikesh and just take up the process to self-realization. So Krishna says that also works, but this is better.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I guess obviously in the rest of or the next few verses and in this chapter, Krishna talks about what makes it better.
Hmm.
Um, can you just talk a little bit, about that? I guess why is it better? I guess thinking again to chapter 3, Krishna talks about doing your duty, do whatever your duty is in this world based
Hmm.
off of sort of, where you were born,
Hmm.
um, how you were born,
Hmm.
and, not taking on the duty of another person,
Hmm.
right? Like sort of just do this work that's whatever has kind of been laid out for you, do that, right? But do that as an offering. So
Hmm.
what makes that better than
Hmm.
than renouncing?
Because it is more natural is
Hmm.
to not renounce and keep Krishna in the center. The reason it is natural is because every living entity is conditioned by the three modes. So based on that, there is a certain proclivity or inclination for work, and renouncing it and taking up the process, which is like working, is like everybody is working according to one's nature. Renouncing work, then everybody is like in the same school of um, yogic process. Just like on a little spun off previously, and the students, if they're kshatriyas, they would go and study how to fight. The student brahmana will go and study the Vedas. Student vaishyas will go and study how to do farming, cow protection, other things. So everybody was taught according to their nature. But now what has happened is everybody is like, especially in India, everybody is put into maths and science and doctor. This, you either become an engineer or you become a doctor or your life is waste. That's Indian conception, at least before. Now things are a little bit changing. So everyone is put into the same machine. Like this is what you have to do, otherwise you're good for nothing. So and now some may be an artist, some may be a writer, some different people have different inclination, and they all will be successful in their life if they follow their heart. But then putting everybody in the same like school of thought where their nature and that doesn't match, then it's an incompatible situation. So that's why taking the path of renunciation is putting everybody in the same school of thought that this is what you have to do, is do pranayam, do asana, and do this. And you can be in your own environment and keep Krishna in the center. So Krishna says it is much easier and natural.
Hmm.
In Bhagavatam, Krishna says those who are very, very like anti-material things. There are some people, I hate this, I don't like, no, 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 no. So for them, it is recommended take the path of renunciation. But for most, it is not the case. Most those who are balanced should take the path of bhakti. Those who are too attached take the path of karma. At least you, okay, you work, but don't. Those who are balanced bhakti, and those who are too renounced. Like I have seen people, they are like, give up this and give up that, and everything is just useless. This is all like daily chores. This is like this and this. So for them, it's better to take the path of renunciation. So
Mm,
those are a little bit extreme path. That's why Krishna says this is natural, this is better. And Krishna also says, just by renunciation, the heart doesn't become pure. Just because I don't engage in these things, no. It is through devotion that the heart becomes purified. But a
mm,
very small percentage will go that route.
mm. Yeah, like so I guess even though there is sort of this answer of like, okay, well, this is really the better, so that, I mean, this is the better of the two options. Sounds like you're also saying it's like the choice is still laid out, right? It's sort of
Mhm,
like, look, you have different options. It's still based off of your nature, you know.
mhm, mhm,
Um, like how Krishna says as well, it's like it's not possible to not do anything, right? To
mhm,
actually do nothing. It's like
mhm,
we always have to be doing something. So I think that just makes a lot of sense that, yeah, it's like this is it's the more natural
mhm,
path. You really
mhm,
don't have to change a lot of the externals in your life,
mhm, mhm,
so like do your work, do whatever it is that you're sort of
mhm,
naturally inclined to do.
mhm,
Um, you don't feel like you have to make some sort of a major
mhm,
change in all of those external things by giving things away, right? Unless that's just what you want to do. If that's what you
mhm,
want to do, it's like you can do that. That's fine. He says
mhm,
that's good too. Um, but it's like, well, I mean, feels like most people would go with this path anyway, right?
mhm,
Um, like, okay, well, we want to we want to experience love anyway, right? I
mhm,
mean,
mhm, mhm,
um, I suppose you could say that you renounce work, you renounce everything. I guess that is sort of maybe ultimately a result somehow or other that love is awakened within. But I suppose the teaching is that, for one thing, that takes a longer. It's not sort of natural to that path, right? And if you sort of just kind of jump in, or like jump into, you just sort of start, right, trying to do things with devotion, start trying to do things as a sacrifice,
mhm.
that becomes the central practice.
Now, there is one point. It may
Hmm.
seem like this path of bhakti will lead to path of ashtanga or path of gyan, but that's not the case. It seems like that
Mm.
because
Why
actually,
does it seem like that?
like if okay, I cannot take that now, so let me take the path of devotion, work in devotion, and when I become free from the nature which is impelling me to work, then I may be able to take that path of renunciation. But right now, but it's not the case actually. So Rupa Goswami says two kind of renunciation. He says artificial renunciation, and he says real renunciation. So artificial renunciation when I renounce things that can be used in the service of the Lord. And real renunciation is I can use everything I have without attachment in the service of the Lord. Renunciation is not an act of giving up, it's an act of using everything without attachment. I can
Mm.
have a house, I can have a family, I can have, but I am not attached. And my goal is clear, and I'm investing my time to serve the Lord. And I'm using everything that is around me to serve the Lord also, to spread the message of the Lord and do God's work. So, also, Krishna is attracted by devotion. That path is more like a mechanical process. And the realization one get from there is only either the impersonal aspect of Lord or the super soul feature of the Lord. But the goal for a devotion is directly the Lord. So in that, and also Krishna says, not by gyan, not by yogic process, not by anything else can I be attained. Krishna says, I can be known and I can be attained as I am only by devotion. Actually, Krishna is looking for that loving affection. Krishna is not looking for the severe austerities, or none of those things attract Krishna. Like, for example, somebody really loves you, And somebody is like, they're fasting. They don't have any affection for you, but they are fasting and they do many things. But that doesn't help you. I mean, if you fast, okay, you fast. I mean, I feel that you are fasting. I feel bad that you are fasting to be with me. But then somebody who has loving affection for you, you will naturally be inclined to them. Then those who don't may not have that heart to heart connection with you, but they do all this yogic processes to attain you. So it's only the love that attracts Krishna's heart.
Mm, 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 mm,
There are these people who are like Gyanis. They are like mental
mhm,
speculation, read a lot of Vedas, but then their heart does not have devotion. It's more like it's a dry path. What about this? What about this? Not this, not that. And it's an intellectual path, but it's not the path of love. So Krishna says, well, if that's what is your calling, fine. You will, when Krishna says both are good for liberation, both are good for liberation because whether one realize it is said there are three features of Lord. The impersonal feature is Lord is everywhere. The super soul feature is Lord is in the heart. And the personal feature is the Lord has a personal form, which is transcendental. So any one feature we attain, it's liberation. So when Krishna says both are good for liberation, does not mean they all lead to the same goal. And
mm,
that's Krishna clarifies that in the 12th chapter. When Arjuna asks, should I worship you in this form or should I worship you without a form? Then Krishna says the other path is very troublesome. So this path of dry renunciation is very troublesome.
mm, mm. So there are like a lower and a higher kind of liberation. Is that how we can think of it, Proji?
Like Prabhupada would compare it to perfect, more perfect, and most perfect realization. Because these are features of the Lord. So that's why using the word lower is kind of little bit.
Mm,
Prabhupada says perfect realization, more perfect realization, most perfect realization.
most perfect.
So in a way, Krishna is all good. And if you realize God in personal feature, great. But there is something that that effulgence has a source. And there's something higher also, which is more complete. But this is also great.
Mm. So thinking back to what you've been discussing, Prabhuji, I think one of the points of working in devotion or practicing karma yoga is that you're not do it's sort of like why you are doing these things or what your purpose is, you know. And so it's sort of like taking the self-centeredness out of the equation, or sort of, you know, it's that kind of process, right? Like as you say, you do all these things, you have a family, you have a job, you know, you put God in the center, and
Mm,
that it's sort of like it slowly allows you to sort of like, I guess, shed that self-centered nature. But it's really it's like that point is not to do things for me anymore. Right? It's
mm,
like if I do something, it's not because, oh, well, I will then enjoy it, or I'm going to do this because I like it and it'll make me feel good, right? Sort of you slowly, you sort of realize those good feelings those are like the temporary sense pleasures that
mm,
Krishna is sort of like, that he's bringing up, you know, again and again in Bhagavad Gita, and he's saying, you know, it's temporary. It's, you know,
mm,
you have to be even, you have to be equipoised through those ups and downs, the pleasures and the pains.
mm,
So I think that's one of the, at least I guess that's one of the goals, right? It's like sort of it's moving from the self-centered
mm,
nature to the
mm.
God-centered nature, right?
Wonderful. Mm. And as you said, that layer will start shunning off from us gradually. It's like little devotion enters, and those thick layers attached to us, like little bit loosened, and some more this substance enter of devotion, some more loosens up. So it starts losing and shunning off, and only the devotion remains. It's organic process.
Mm. One other thing, I guess, Prabhuji, that you mentioned, maybe there is a conception. I think you said basically there's a conception that some people have that bhakti leads into a different path, or that bhakti leads into the path of renunciation. Um, and I suppose, we can maybe discuss that a little bit. I feel like some people out there who, with it, like if they think of what is a spiritual path, like what does a seeker do, maybe they recall some stories that they've read or things, they might think, okay, it's someone who kind of like does what Arjun is talking about maybe doing. It's someone who goes to the forest, or it's someone who just sort of like leaves everything and renounces, and they, live like a solitary life, with no material comforts,
Mm,
and sort of like they
mm,
give everything up in that sense. And so that
mm,
is
mm,
what, like, the most extreme example, the most, sincere example of what is like a spiritual seeker
mm,
does.
mm,
Um, and I guess, I mean, the perspective from someone who is a bhakti yogi is essentially the reverse, right? It's sort of like, well, actually it's study and contemplation, and it's meditation, and it's, renunciation of material things that could potentially, like, that will eventually lead into bhakti. Um, but I guess there's an additional point that, like, those things aren't necessary, right? Like you can just start practicing bhakti right now.
mm,
You can just you
mm,
can just start doing the same things you're doing, but change your intention,
mm,
try to slowly change the reason behind why you're doing it, sort of move it
mm,
away from yourself. So, um, I suppose that's sort of a very nice aspect of bhakti, right? Um, it's like, well, it's actually, look, it's very challenging. It's not just like this, as people say a lot, it's simple, but it's not easy.
mm,
Um, but it's not like, there's a big upheaval that's required. And then there isn't, you don't have to, I guess, eventually move into that space where you do live in a cave alone, all day.
mm, mm. So some people think like as you were mentioning, because that's a hard path. So some people think because that's a hard part, not everybody is able to do. So that is higher. But that's not the case. So Prabhupada says bhakti is actually very simple. And Prabhupada says it is so simple that we may miss the point also. It is so simple. Bhakti is so simple. Then Prabhupada, I mean, um, um, actually, this path of renunciation, actually, where the path of renunciation ends, that's where bhakti begins. Because the path of renunciation is more of detachment and doing all these practices and reading all these Vedas. And finally, when the body is controlled, mind is controlled, then there is some meditation, starting from meditation on something material and leads to meditation on super soul. Then they realize that God is actually a person, God is in my heart. And right now, there is no active service. It's just a realization that He exists and they can perceive Him. So once that's the goal of this path of renunciation. Then they develop a desire. This person is so wonderful, I want to serve him. And when they develop that desire, that's where bhakti begins for them. But those who don't take this whole path of renunciation and realizing, they directly accept that God is there and He's the creator. From Him, everything emanates. And I have a loving relationship with Him. Let me serve Him. So it's like Prabhupada would say that's like a lift. And the other path are like staircases. It's like we directly start doing, even though the Ashtanga yogi and Jnani, they may attain more uh, freedom from the three modes than we may be in the beginning. They may spend many lifetimes to attain more freedom from the three modes, and we may be right within the three modes. But the process that we begin is where they are going to eventually come to. Everybody has to come to the path of bhakti. Although intellectually they may say that this is higher and we are doing this, eventually after many lifetimes, then they will get entrance into path of bhakti. So Prabhupada says one who begins the path of bhakti right away, it's still the goal. Has attained the goal, which is devotional service, but his bhakti is little immature. Prabhupada would compare it to unripe mango and ripe mango. The goal is ripe mango, and we are in a state of unripe mango. But what we are doing is actually what needs to be done. And
Mm,
that itself is so powerful. It is said that bhakti is not dependent upon karma and jnana or any other process. Bhakti is not dependent upon anything else, and bhakti should come after that. Bhakti itself is most powerful, and that itself will give you the result of karma and gyan much more quickly and take you beyond that also. That's why when I was practicing, bhakti doesn't need any other, bhakti doesn't need a clutcher. Bhakti is independently, supremely powerful.
mm. Can we maybe think of it like a lot of these goals that you we may think of as being independent goals in spiritual life are sort of you're working on all of them at the same time in bhakti practice.
Mm.
Is that sort of it? So that as
Yeah.
you say, like uh someone who's really renounced, and so they're like really working on one goal, and they really get a high achievement, if you want to call it.
Mm.
I don't think we typically tend to think of
Mm.
spiritual practice in terms of like achievement, but whatever,
Yeah.
they really progress on a particular level.
Yeah.
They still, there may still be like they may still be a beginner in some other area.
Yeah.
And so I suppose I don't know, does that sound right?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Arjun?
Their perfection is a side product in the path of bhakti. It
Mm,
is said bhakti has two children. One is knowledge and one is renunciation.
mm,
So, one who practices bhakti, knowledge and renunciation will follow. But the path of knowledge and renunciation, some people may be working towards knowledge and renunciation. This is path of Gyan and path of Ashtanga. They're working in that direction. But these are kids of bhakti. So they will eventually come to bhakti. The bhakti yogi will naturally have knowledge and renunciation, everything within it, because bhakti is like a complete process. And we are taking it, all this side effects will be given to us anyhow.
mm,
Yogic process, one of the goal of yogic process is mystical powers. And Bhakti Yogi has all the mystical powers just by itself. Bhakti Yogi just had to practice bhakti. Everything is there. This is like Krishna says, only devotion can attract me. Krishna is a person, we are a person, and love for Krishna is bhakti.
mm,
Loving service to him is, and that's what we do when we go back to spiritual world. Is like we serve the Lord out of love in various relationships. Whether we are a cowherd boy or a cowherd girl or whatever, we have various relationships, and we serve Krishna out of love. And that's right mango. And what we are doing, we are doing similar thing, but not in the same bhav or same mood of loving devotion, same intensity of loving devotion. So our is like unripe mango, there is like ripe mango, but we are pretty much doing the same thing. So this itself is the goal and the most powerful way to connect to Krishna. Please Krishna.
mm. Can we talk a little more, Proji, about service and I guess the importance of service? Like why maybe, like talk about why service is so, essential. And I guess maybe I'll
Mm,
preface that, by saying there's a lot that one can do on a spiritual path, right? I certainly am
mm,
not aware of all the possibilities and all the things that people know and have learned. Um, but I guess to me, it's always felt kind of like empty or incomplete if helping and being of service is not a key component, at least, is
mm,
not like a part of it. There's a lot that people can accomplish, and then it's sort of
mm,
like, okay, well, you've accomplished that.
mm,
Maybe you feel good.
mm,
I don't know. Maybe it's a nice feeling. I'm sure it is nice, to um, like for example, to renounce things and to shed some of those
mm,
attachments that we have that sort of cause
mm,
pain.
mm,
Um, but I guess, I mean, when I think of the nature, or when I read Bhagavad Gita, I'm trying to consider like what is the nature of the divine? Like what is, what really is the nature of God, which, we're being told is also sort of our basic nature as well.
mm,
And
mm,
when I think back to, earlier in chapter 3, Krishna talks about how essentially he doesn't really have to do anything. Like he doesn't have an actual duty, because he's completely renounced and he's
mm,
detached from everything. It's like
mm,
he would be completely fine not creating anything, you know.
mm, mm.
but he does, but and it's sort of like nevertheless he does it, right? And nevertheless he still keeps all of the laws of nature going. Everything, is going. He sort of acts, as if he's following a very strict duty, that he must perform. He sort of acts in that way. And I guess, if you start to think of all of your life as being, it's like I'm sort of being given this, you know, my very existence is like a service that was done to me, for me. These things in my life that are good, I'm being given. As I pay more attention to what's going on in my life, I try to become more intentional with it. You actually notice it more and more. Like, wow, these opportunities are coming. These things are, things are happening at the right time. Things sort of come together, even though they may be very challenging, some of them. You still sort of start to see, wow, like I'm being given so much. There's so much service that I feel like really isn't maybe deserved on my part that is being given to me. And so it feels natural in that way to want to give it back, in some way or other, right? It's like wanting to be of service because it feels like I'm sort of being taken care of and I don't quite, like, maybe I don't quite understand why even, but there's that, at least that sort of, the response, I guess the kind of the natural response is like, I want to then pay that forward or, give that back, whatever I've been given, right? I think that's a natural human feeling. That's a natural human response. So anyway, yeah, with that, um, can you just talk a little bit, Proji, about, about service? Like, why is it, it's sort of why is it like the highest? Why is it so important? Why is that our means, and our goal ultimately as well?
So very nice point you made. Like that's a point of gratitude that one recognizes how I have been provided for everything. And there is this, f- out of this gratitude, this feeling of taken so much, what can I do in response? And this feeling itself is devotion. It's a path of bhakti. Where Krishna is doing so much for me, I must do something for Krishna. We are, Krishna is very, very eager to serve his devotees. Krishna has nothing to do. But the only thing he does is he serves his devotees, reciprocates. So Krishna is doing so much for me. How can I reciprocate? This mode is wonderful. Thank you for saying that. If we see the basis of any relationship is service, Prabhu, and love is expressed in the mode of service. When we actually love anybody, then we want to do what pleases them. For example, if you have some affection for your parents, then you want to visit them. Now maybe you have many things going on and many things to do, but still you visit them because it pleases them. They'll be happy if I go. So let me go. I may be busy, but it's important. Let me go because it's gonna give them happiness. So when we love somebody now, the basis of love is service. And like in India, there is a concept of arranged marriage, which is like a foreign concept here. Like boy and girl, they get married and they don't know anything about each other. Just based on astrological chart, it matches. Parents says it's good to go. The boy surrenders, the girl surrenders. All right, we'll work it out. So that's like arrange, like just arrange. The marriage is arranged, like arranged marriage. And now that these two people are looking at each other in the previous time, the boy and girl would not even see each other. The parents will look at the girl and the boy. The marriage is fixed. Then they see each other on the day of marriage. Then, oh, that's who I'm going to get married. That concept is also there. And now in the end, they are in a house, in a room, and they're like, okay, what's your name? What's your profession? Tell me something about you. So then it's like a very, very new relationship, but now it's a lifelong relationship. And that relationship is the base of the relationship is service. So she's trying to cook something nice or do something, or maybe wash the clothes, or she's trying to do something to please him. And he's trying to maybe get some jewelry for her, buy some clothing for her, or take her somewhere that the place she likes to go. And he's trying to please her. And they both are in gratitude to each other, and they both are receiving so much, and they are receiving so much, and they're so happy they want to give more. And that's how, based on this relationship of service, the relationship is built. And that relationship stays very long. Why the child is so much indebted to the mother? Because the mother has put so much love and affection and care throughout her life, and so the child is like, the child is bound by the affection of mother actually. So this is how a relationship is formed, and and wherever the service is in the center, those relationships will be everlasting. And we see even a boy and a girl, if we see, like even in arrange, even in Western culture, it's like there is the concept of dating. So what they do is they try to please the other person. They try to dress in a particular way that the other person will like. They try to take them to a restaurant and order the food that they may not like, but the other person likes. So it's like, whatever they say, they do. And you want this, okay, I'll do it, do it, do it. So it's like I mean, it may be artificial, but the concept is I'm trying to please and win the favor of the other person. And that person actually is one over a period of time. Same principle is between us and Krishna. It's like we are trying to do what pleases him. And Krishna has very clearly mentioned what pleases me. Krishna says, when you serve my devotees, when you glorify me, I mean, pretty much, you glorify a girl or a boy and they are pleased. But that is material and this is completely spiritual. This is filled with divine potency, and that is actually a little bit of many other things are there. But it's like with the same principle. We glorify the Lord. We cook for the Lord what He likes. We take care of, we basically serve the Lord. We try to connect other living entities who are very dear to Krishna and bring them closer to Krishna. So in a way, this is all service. Devotional service. Devotional service is not just like people think of. When people think, the first thing comes to the service is you wash the pots and you clean the floor. That's the thing that comes in the mind when we think of service. That's also service. We are not demeaning that, but that's not the only thing. But devotional service described as hearing about Krishna, like what we are doing, it's a service. Glorifying him, kirtan, that is a service. Other than that, visiting holy places, like we come to Krishna Community Center, then that becomes a service, visiting holy places. So in that way, there are various ways. The concept of service with Krishna is a little bit unique. And it is defined. Okay, what are the various ways we can serve Krishna? And through that, Krishna feels like grateful. Like, for example, think of an example. Somebody from the neighbor. I'm sure in here, not many people know each other's neighbor, anyhow, generally speaking. So the neighbor knocks the door.
Mm.
Neighbor comes, fell down to offer obeisances to you, goes back to his room. Just think about it. Next day he comes, pays obeisances, goes back. Next day he comes, pays obeisances. You ask him, what are you doing? I just want to serve you. I'm your servant. And he does that every month, every day, every month. What will you, or how will you feel? Yeah, I need to do something for this person. The relationship is formed just by him paying obeisances to you. See how simple it is.
Mm.
But it's like, when ego comes in, why should I take a lower position? No. But just by coming and paying obeisances to Krishna, relationship is formed. And somebody comes, they says, can I use the kitchen? And they make something very wonderful. They said, you must be hungry. Here is some breakfast for you. Here's some lunch for you. And this is what you like. So you feel like, what can I do for this person? Like I'm like, you feel like indebted. So it is said that whenever, and Krishna is the one, devotees have gratitude. Whatever qualities devotees have is actually coming from Krishna. Krishna is the source of all the qualities. Krishna is the maximum gratitude. Today morning we had a Bhagavatam discussion, and there is this saint Kardama. He performed austerities and performed devotion for many, many years. And then Krishna became very much indebted. Krishna came, and when Krishna saw Kardama Muni, Krishna shed tears because seeing that how much love and what all this devotee has done for me. And from that tear, a lake was formed. It's called Bindu Sarovar Lake. So this is how grateful Krishna was when he saw his devotee. So in that way, sometime he express, sometime he doesn't express. And Krishna says the reason I don't reciprocate immediately, so that the love can be further intensified. So just like in this material world also, the basis of a relationship is service. Suppose there is a boy and a girl, and the girl says, "You have to do this for me." Boy says, "No, first you have to do this for me." No, I want this. I want this. The relationship will never be formed actually.
They'll never do anything for each other.
Yeah, it's like so that's right. And Krishna also says there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, "Those who are engaged in serving me with love, I bring them to me. I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Basically, I bring them to me."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the many like inconceivable things, about this absolute, this whole God is also referred to as the root many times in this literature. It's sort of like the root of our existence. We're trying to get to the root.
Mm,
There's an analogy of watering the root of the plant and then the whole plant, from the stem to the branches to the leaves to everything, gets nourished by watering the root.
mm,
Um, one of the very inconceivable things about thinking about, the nature of God is um how uh like that nature is completely unselfish, you know?
mm,
Like
mm,
that nature is of love and love is unselfish.
mm,
And so even, the idea that, oh, we're supposed to be devoted to God, that we're supposed to talk about, the stories, we're supposed to do kirtan, um, we're supposed to like, sort of make that the center, right? It's not, I guess it's important. Maybe I'll say for myself,
mm,
it's a very important point to make that the reason we do that is not that it's selfishness on the part of God. Does that make sense? That,
yes.
if you think like, really love, like what real love is, which is
Mm,
hard to imagine, we
mm,
do have our examples,
mm,
in this world, but real love that's completely pure, completely
mm,
unselfish is very hard to come by. It's very hard even maybe to like imagine sometimes what
mm,
that is. But I guess doing our best anyway, right? Someone
mm,
who really does feel that love would just continue to give, just
mm,
continue to give. You think of a mother and a child, mother just continues to give, or a parent, let's say, we'll include
mm,
fathers, just continue to give, right?
mm,
Like
mm,
it's not so that I will get anything. It's not because I need them to tell me that they're grateful. It's not because I need them to do anything for me. Um, even sometimes a child, like someone's child becomes estranged and they move off and I don't want anything to do with you. A lot of us, especially here, are quite can be quite rebellious. Even
mm,
in that circumstance, right? The love is just it never goes away. It never diminishes. It's always just I'm always gonna feel that for you, right?
mm, mm,
And so yeah, I guess it's sort of it is it's inconceivable to think of sort of like what this is all about. I guess it's like you get a sense of this is like really sweet, you know. Um, but I mean, it's hard to imagine that anybody would like care so much to do these things, right? Or like how could someone just like love me unconditionally like that, right? That can be a difficult, thought,
mm,
if you are like me and you're always trying to wrap your mind around something, it's probably never going to like make total sense. It's you have to get to the heart level, um, to really start feeling that, right?
mm, mm,
Um, but yeah, it's just, it's important, or at least for, like I said, for myself, to remember like it's coming from a place of love, right? This is not like I need your attention. It's not I need you to do
mm,
this, I need you to do that, right? It's like
mm,
again, the divine is perfectly renounced. It's one of
mm,
the six, there's like six perfections, right? That's, God has these six perfections. Most of them, it's like beautiful, fame, riches, knowledge, and then it's renunciation. Like,
mm,
wow, doesn't need anything, but still loves
mm,
perfectly, like, right, all the creation, all the living beings, everything. So, yeah, it's sort of like, I mean, that is the thing. At least if you have that idea in mind, like that's what sort of makes you want to start giving, right? Or like
mm,
this may be one thing. Like
mm,
wow, if my parent loves me so much, they just keep doing this thing, these things for me. They just keep eventually most people will go, you know what? I need to do this, right? This feels like the right thing. So maybe that's the closest thing I can imagine anyway to, sort of what we're dealing with the divine relationship.
mm. Amazing too. Work very well. Yeah. This mood is devotion. Whatever you spoke, that bhav, that mood, that consciousness is devotion. It's so natural. With it,
Mhm.
I mean, devotion is natural.
Yeah.
Everything else is like artificially imposed upon us,
Yeah.
upon the soul.
It comes from others though, right? That's one of the beautiful things. It's like it's not a thing you just, oh yeah, I just naturally understand this. I just naturally, feel this way. It's like and I mean anything that I feel like that I have or that I have learned is because somebody else sort of showed it to me. Like somebody else taught it to me. Somebody else, gave that to me.
Yeah.
Um which it makes the relationships that we have with other people, and specifically like other seekers, other devotees, other spiritual people who are feeling that similar kind of mood, makes it all the more special, right? Because like they're giving it, like they're the ones who are giving it to you.
Mm. I was thinking like how there's a relationship between like um, guru and shishya. Shishya means a student and spiritual master. And as you was thinking, I was also thinking how they do so much seva to help this living entity and show unconditional love. And they just accept the, like Kalakanta Prabhu was mentioning, a spiritual master should accept the the student without any condition and without any expectation from them, and should be their well-wisher in all circumstances. Don't want anything from them, but just to help them go closer to God. And that is the role of spiritual master. And if the student he realizes that the our teacher is doing and unconditionally loving and taking them closer and doesn't want and tolerating and just helping, and how much service they are rendering in terms of freeing us from our past or whatever and helping us further going, then it's the same devotional service that produces loving affection. Whether they are helping through their words, through their examples, through their kirtans, through in whichever way they are helping, through listening to us when we are in difficult situations. Again, the relationship basis is service. The spiritual master is trying to serve the disciple by freeing them from various unforeseen circumstances and helping them grow. And the disciple is trying to serve the spiritual master through whatever way, what can I do? And they are also perfectly renounced. And they don't want. Like one devotee asked Prabhupada, you have done so much for us. You came without any money alone and you struggled so much just for all of us. If you wouldn't have come, we wouldn't have known anything about it, about the path of devotion. Now we are indebted to what we have received and we're so happy and we are connected. You are lost and you took all the struggle and you don't want anything and you just keep giving and you are struggling more and more to give us more and more. So how can we reciprocate? And Prabhupada says just share the same message with others. So they were humble. They were like, Swamiji will say, do this. They will say something for himself and he's like, just do the same thing. I don't need anything. So it's like, um, again, one serves the spiritual master just by sharing with others and in various ways. Actually, a student cannot do anything for spiritual master. There is nothing the spiritual master needs from us. There is nothing we have that we can give him. There is no lack. It's completely full. There is no worry, like just share with others. And same thing we hear even Jesus' story. Na? He washed the feet of Peter, I think.
Mhm.
And Peter said, you are the Messiah, and we are your servant. Why you are doing? He says, so you can do this to others. He just gave, and gave his life also. Gave, and they were indebted that what he did for us and how can, and in reciprocation, then they spread the message actually that we want to bring his name forward. That's what it was, a reciprocation. It's that loving relationship actually. Purity is there. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, just really beautiful, you
Uh,
know.
it's
Like
beautiful.
yeah. And then, that idea too that the spiritual master is like the biggest servant. It's like the inversion of of like a corporate hierarchy almost,
Uh,
like the guru places themselves on the bottom rather than on the top. And so, I'm the
uh,
biggest servant. I'm here to serve everybody,
uh,
the most.
uh,
Um yeah, it's just yeah, I mean it's like what else are you supposed to do but
mm,
want to do something,
mm.
in return.
Like praise for everybody. Even in that age, they travel, take inconvenience in the cold and in whatever. And then they tolerate also. And it's like giving and go away. Then give and go away everywhere.
Mhm.
They're available for us. Yes, Prabhu.
Mhm. I feel like at the least, like every human being has a certain level of respect and admiration for that kind of behavior, right? Or that type of dedication,
Mm.
the people who live that kind of life, even if there isn't like a feeling of attachment or like people might not necessarily be drawn to that. I feel like there is just this universal feeling of like, that's good, you know? And maybe in our mind, we kind of go, oh, I don't think I could really do that. I don't know how, but at the very least we go, wow, that's really nice. Like that's kind of amazing, or like, I really respect that. Someone gives their life, someone gives is always trying to serve others. Um, it's sort of, there's always like, there's just an indication from within. You don't have to have any spiritual practice, right? That this is like a good thing. This is like a good thing to be around or listen to, try to emulate.
Amazing. They're so dedicatedly trying to serve Krishna and trying to serve everybody and not caring for their own personal needs also to the minimum. They're trying to stretch themselves for everybody and giving. They become so attractive. Just by seeing them, the eyes becomes pure actually. Just thinking about them, the heart feels devotion. What a personalities, bro. And because there is this relationship of service now. It's it that's the true relationship which is based on service.
Mm,
All,
wonderful. How
all
do
right.
you feel, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I feel it's time.
Very good. Yeah, well, thank you so much for this discussion, Prabhuji.
Yeah, it was wonderful, and thank you, Brett Prabhu, for making time every week and in having this beautiful conversation together. Thank you very much. We'll end here and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.